Kevin, I did it.
Yep.
I did it. I tried to talk into the microphone and it wasn't turned on.
You need to be fired.
Is this thing on? It's on now. Kevin Schnall didn't even make it to the second inning in Game 2 of the College World Series, tossed for arguing balls and strikes. And I say, good. Kevin Schnall, you knew the rules. You pushed it. You broke the rules. And you got your ass sent back to the showers. What do you think? It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson, 844-326-3663. LSU wins their second College World Series in the last 3 years, Cole, but that's barely even the story because we all we all predicted that LSU just had too much firepower for the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. I thought they acquitted themselves fairly well in game number 2. They tried to mount a little bit of a comeback, but it wasn't quite enough. Game 1, very different story. But yes, the big story is that Kevin Schnall, the first-year head coach of the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, in his very first appearance as head coach in the College World Series, lost his cool and got himself tossed in the bottom of the first inning. Want to hear from you, Tolos, 844-326-3663. Was it justified on the behalf of the umpire for tossing Kevin Schnall? Well, I'm going to let Kevin Schnall answer that question for us. Cole, here's some audio of Kevin in his post-game interview. You can tell he's still a little amped up, right? And his team did just lose the College World Series, so that's completely understandable. But here's what Kevin Schnall had to say, and we're gonna break this down after this audio is done. It's just about 2.5 minutes long. I think it very concisely gets the point across that he realizes, well, he did wrong.
There's 25,000 people there, and I vaguely hear a warning issued. As the head coach, I was an assistant for 24 years, and as an assistant, you're almost treated like a second-level citizen, and you can't say a word. Now, as a head coach, I think it is your right to get an explanation of why we got warned. And I'm 48 years old. I shouldn't get shooed by another grown man, right? So when I come out to ask what the warning is, a grown man shooed me. So at that point, I can now hear him say, it was a warning issued for arguing balls and strikes. And at that point, I said, because you missed 3. At that point, ejected. If that warrants an ejection, I'm the first one to stand here like a man and apologize. 2 words that define our program are own it. And what does that mean is you have to own everything that you do without blame, without defending yourself, without excuses. If you guys watch the video, there was a guy that came in extremely aggressively, tripped over Campos's foot, embarrassed in front of 25,000, immediately goes 2-game suspension and said, bumping the umpire. Immediately does that. There was no bump. He was embarrassed. I shouldn't be held accountable for a grown man's athleticism. They'll retract it, though, because now it's excessive. And the reason why it's excessive, because I was trying to say, I didn't bump him. It is what it is, but if that warranted an ejection, man, there'd be a lot of ejections. As an umpire, I feel like it's your job to manage the game, the national championship game, with some poise, some calmness, and a little bit of tolerance.
Cole Bryson, I open the floor to you.
What do I always say? What do I always say when it comes to situations where they turn into a debate, right? I always say, Diesel, I do try to see both sides, and I say that a lot, and I really do try and everything to see both sides, and I try to do that here. Obviously, yesterday, in the heat of the moment, nobody watching that game yesterday, Diesel, sees what happens and thinks, boy, I'm glad Kevin Schnall got ejected. Well, maybe 2 or 3 people do, but nobody.
Some LSU fans would.
Yeah, I mean, nobody in their right mind thinks, oh, this is great. First inning, the Coastal Carolina head coach gets ejected. So, again, what do I mean by I try to see everything for what it's worth. See both sides of the story. Number one, Diesel, Kevin Schnall knows that he did tiptoe the line. He knows that his emotions got the best of him. A very high intense College World Series game where his back's against the wall. He knows that the season will be over if they don't win. The emotions run high. I get it. It's the College World Series. However, on the flip side, we do have officials on the field, Diesel, to help the game, help the betterment of the game, help people, players, coaches not get escalated to the point where what happened yesterday happened. So when I say both sides, when I say that I try to see both sides, I do admit that Kevin Schnall was upset. He was emotional. Emotions were running high. However, I also think that the umpires, Diesel, were also very emotional when you're getting told you're doing something wrong over and over. And let's be honest, when you are doing something wrong and you get called out for it, it doesn't make it better when somebody's over there chirping you over your left shoulder, right? So for my 2 cents, Diesel, I'll say this. I think it was cheap. I think it was Bush League to throw Kevin Schnall out. However, I do admit to you and to the Tolos today that I think Kevin Schnall tiptoed across that line.
So, judging by what Kevin Schnall said in that 2.5-minute piece of audio, and it's out there, you can find it if you want to listen to it again. He said, very briefly, I heard a warning. I shouldn't get shooed. Okay, you shouldn't get shooed, but you're in an area of the field you shouldn't be in during the game. He says he heard the second warning that he received for arguing balls and strikes. And then he continues to argue balls and strikes. Like, he knows full well that he broke the rules. I heard the warning. I heard a second warning for arguing. I continued to argue. So when Kevin Schnall says, own it, but I barely heard the warning. So you're saying you heard the warning. Just because it's loud, that's not an excuse. When you say you heard the warning, saying, well, it was loud, that's an excuse. Don't give me we don't excuse things here and then excuse your own actions, Kevin Schnall. Do I think that the umpire had an extremely short fuse, an extremely short leash? Yes.
I think everybody can admit that, right?
Yeah, I will gladly admit. I will gladly say that referee took it too far too fast.
Yeah.
But Kevin Schnall says right there in that piece of audio, they warned me for arguing balls and strikes. And then he was, by the way, he was halfway out onto the field when he said, yeah, but you just missed 3. Or that's the 3rd time, whatever exactly it was that he said. And he says it twice. He says it to him twice. You got to know that you're tiptoeing the line there.
You do. You're tiptoeing it. My whole thing is, Diesel, from a referee, from an official standpoint, from an umpire, right? I think that now umpires get a ton of criticism, right? We all know that. But I think, Diesel, one of the most important jobs of an official in sports is to keep peace, to keep everything under control. In basketball, especially like at the high school level, it's hard to do. These officials are responsible for not allowing things to escalate. However, guess what the officials are? The officials are human and also have emotions. I officiated high school basketball for a short time, Diesel, before I moved to Texas. And having emotions is something that you cannot do if you're an official.
Right.
Period. It is your job to de-escalate everything. Is it a tremendously difficult job? 100%. It is all. People do not realize how tough officiating is. To have to deal with this team, you're never right? It doesn't matter what side you're looking at. People don't understand how tough officials' jobs are. With that being said, I think this official, to your point, we can all admit that he had a very quick fuse, very short fuse. I think this official, for whatever reason, Diesel did not have the wherewithal to be able to control the situation. I think if he could go back and do it over, I do think he would have chosen to control the situation differently.
Would I like for the referee or for the umpire to have called time, gone over to Kevin Schnall, stepped in the dugout, whatever it may be, or wait until the inning is over and then go have that one-on-one conversation with him? Yeah, I would have liked to have done that. I'd like for him to do that. I don't want to see a head coach and a first base coach get thrown out in the bottom of the first inning. I think it's a bad look for the game. I think it's a bad look for that individual umpire, and it's a bad look for referees who call, especially baseball, but all sports. But the fact is, the rule is the rule. And people argue this all the time, whether it's NBA. Oh, you don't call that foul in the postseason. Why not? A foul's a foul. If a foul occurs, you call the foul. I don't care if it's LeBron James and it's in Game 7 and he has 5 fouls in the first half. If he commits his 6th foul, you're done. Dude, you know the rules. You can't do this, well, I feel like I should get extra grace. No, that's not how it works. And we have a texter who's texting in and says, Coach Schnall's not someone who goes and picks a fight. It has to be quite egregious for him to speak up and say something. Well, he spoke up. He spoke up and he argued balls and strikes, and then he continued needling that umpire even after he was warned. He admits that he knew he was warned twice, and he continued to argue it. Do I think it was a short fuse? Yes. But I absolutely see the justification for why it happened.
I'll tell you this, to your point about a foul being a foul. I don't know if we have any officials listening. I'm sure we do at some point, maybe during football season.
Call
we have
in, please.
Football officials that are listening and tolos the show. But I will say this, Diesel, as someone who has officiated for a very short time, just a few years, I think 3 years was all I did, and I know a lot of officials at the high school and college level. I have friends that are officials at the college level. And I will say, to your point about a foul being a foul, and I think this relates to the situation that happened yesterday. Yes, you're right. By the book, a foul's a foul, a broken rule is a broken rule, right? However, officials, it's like among the officials, there is an unwritten rule that if, let's say, for example, Diesel, a game's tied in the fourth quarter at 89-89, and there's a tiny little slap on the wrist, you're not stopping gameplay on a fast break opportunity if it was away from the ball and it didn't impact the play. Same thing in football. It happens every Friday night, it happens every Saturday, and it happens every Sunday. If there's a play, away from the ball, that doesn't directly affect the play, there's an unwritten rule, Diesel, that officials are going to use common sense, use common judgment to allow things to happen. I'm not saying they break the rules. I'm just saying in this situation, I think 99% of officials out there understand what's happening. And, man, when you blow a whistle on the basketball court, sometimes it comes out fast. But when you eject somebody, that is monstrous. Well, I just think it was so quick, and that's why I don't agree with him doing it.
We have off-ball fouls called in football all the time. I'm looking at you, South Carolina and LSU. It was an off-ball foul, an off-ball penalty that allowed that play to continue and allowed LSU to go score. So it still happens. Do I like it when an off-ball foul occurs and brings a play back? Like a block in the back that occurs 15 yards behind the play when the player is running a punt back. I hate those rules, but the rule is the rule. So I don't subscribe to this theory of, well, just because it happens off ball, we should be able to get away with it.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying when you do experience umpiring and you experience the flow of a game and you experience emotions and you experience everything within a game, there are some things that you just allow. Like you have to have emotion just can't. Diesel, I say this, emotion, it's like you and I. If we're in a really big debate, right, on air about sport, emotion can't control our actions in every single step of this job.
Right.
Emotions can't control an official in every single step. Maybe his dog got hit by a school bus on the way to the game. I don't know.
I
Maybe
don't
he's
get
having
to
a bad
say,
day.
I don't get to say, hey, Cole, bleep you if we're in the middle of a heated debate and it be justifiable in the eyes of the FCC. Well, Cole got me really upset. Well, they don't care about that. They will fire me. That's how it works.
Right.
Texter says Angel Campos was the umpire who ejected Cam Cannarella in the 2023 NCAA baseball playoffs against Tennessee. Anytime there's a game of significance, he always seems to announce his presence in some shape or form. Well, Texter, opposite side of that argument, okay? The argument of, well, if it's a championship series, certain things shouldn't be called. You could also argue, well, if coaches see Angel Campos calling the game, they need to learn to walk on eggshells more, right? That shouldn't be the case either. And a coach within the rules should be allowed to argue his point within the rules, even if Angel Campos is calling the game.
Yeah. Now I do think Kevin Schnall was right on the guy that fell. As soon as he got up, he went 2 games.
Yeah,
like,
that was stupid.
What are we doing? Like, you tripped over your umpire. And now I will say, if you were watching in real time, based on where you were sitting, you probably couldn't tell that that's what happened, because I saw the reaction of one clip, Diesel, of a lot of LSU fans. And when that happened, they all went, whoa, he pushed the referee over. He pushed the official over, right? So, like, I do get it. It looked bad, but after ESPN showed the replay, Diesel, you could clearly see that he tripped. Again, I go back to the point I said at the very beginning of the show. I try to see both sides, and I think both were in the wrong. I think sometimes both parties can be in the wrong, and I think that's what happened yesterday.
I do hope that the NCAA goes back and reviews that and sees that he didn't bump the umpire
100%,
and says, okay, we're nullifying the multi-game suspension. I didn't like the idea of a multi-game suspension regardless, right? I mean, it was a stretch to say he was ejectable in that situation, but it's you're going to hurt yourself reaching really far to say that deserves 2 games, especially when they can go back and watch the replay and notice that he didn't push the guy.
And they've got all off season to do that. All off season to do that. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. If they will do it. Hopefully they will. I'm sure that Coastal Carolina will send that in every day until it's fixed. You remember Eric Bakich, similar situation. First couple of games this year, he was suspended, right? When they played out in Arlington, he was on the radio call. So it happens. It's unfortunate. But again, when you haven't lost a game in, 26 games, Diesel, and you lose the day before, and now all of a sudden, if you lose one more, your season's over, emotions are high. And again, I don't know what that umpire, what was going through his mind. Maybe, Diesel, he did miss a couple of calls, and he wasn't happy that he was called out about it. That happens. Maybe he was mad that Kevin Schnall was chirping. I don't know. But it to your point, somebody else said it on Twitter yesterday, the game, 18.5 minutes in, we hadn't even talked about that's the whole point, right? Like this, and the game wasn't, let's just be honest, the game wasn't extremely riveting anyways. So it is a kind of a good thing that for you and I, we this happened. I mean, for other radio show hosts too, because if we had to spend the next few months talking about that game, it was one inning. There was one inning where it was a good game, but other than that, it wasn't a fantastic game, right? We'll spend obviously more time talking about it at 4 o'clock for the new audience, but I'm telling you, it is when you see that happen, the immediate reaction on social media it's unbelievable. People were livid. And again, I was too. I think it was Bush League what happened, but I do try to see both sides like I do in everything. And I think that's important to understand that while Kevin Schnall shouldn't have got tossed, he did tiptoe and he did walk out to where he shouldn't have been, Diesel. So it's unfortunate, but guess what? It's part of the game.
It is what it is. And it's funny is Jay Johnson, the head coach of the LSU Tigers, had just made a similar statement the night before. Right? He was in the media. He was doing his post-game press conference in that game, and he said, "You know what? I got upset. I got in my feels, but it is on me to manage my emotions in those situations.
Yeah.
And less than 24 hours later, that same situation is reversed. It should have been on Kevin Schnall to manage his emotions, and Campos, the umpire, to manage his emotions so it doesn't get to that point. So we're not calling into question the College World Series. I don't know that it would have mattered. I mean, come on. No. LSU's pitching staff was so good. That reliever was insanely good, and he deserves all the credit in the world, but that's not what we're talking about today.
I don't think it would have mattered if the best manager in the history of sports, Bruce Bochy, was out there. I don't think it matters. Yesterday, I think Coastal loses regardless. So we'll dive back into it, though. 4 o'clock Tolos, we will get back into the conversation. We'll get into the game a little bit. What was so special about LSU's run and how they were so dominant, because it was one quarter, where it wasn't close. But other than that, it was pretty tight. Also, Overreaction Monday coming up at 5 o'clock. Diesel and I have some overreactions. We have Cory Diaz, who covers LSU baseball, coming up at 4:20, a loaded show. And your thoughts at 844-326-3663. Well, Diesel, I know this is going to come across as a shocker to you, but Rob Brown disagreed with something that I said on Twitter last night, this morning on the Rob Brown Show.
Really?
Yep, which, by the way, you can check out 6 to 10 a.m. right here on the Fan Upstate if you have not done so already. I said last night on Twitter, while watching what was NBA Finals Game 7, Diesel, that this was the most boring NBA game finals maybe ever. I watched. Tolos, if you watched, tell me if you agree or disagree at 844-326-3663. Diesel, you know that I am a NBA fan, but also I am objective. Last night's game was horrible. I have some takeaways. We have some thoughts on what happened last night as Oklahoma City won Game 7, defeated Indiana, and are NBA champions. Congratulations to them. But let's start with that tweet. That tweet of mine, Diesel. I know that Tyrese Halliburton going down drastically affected that game because he came out guns a-blazing. However, I also know that stars go down. It happens. It's happened over the past 5 to 10 years in the NBA. And then after that, I'll tell you what. I don't know if you buy melatonin at the Ingles markets near you, but you didn't have to last night. Last night's NBA Game 7 was pure in its form melatonin.
Yeah, it got out of hand early, and Oklahoma City just did a great job keeping them at arm's length, right? It felt like maybe there was going to be a push there at the end when Indiana got it to 12.
Yeah,
and you thought, okay, maybe with about 4 minutes to go, they hit a couple threes, and this is a really interesting finish. Mm-hmm. Even if they don't win the ball game, at least it makes it interesting and gives people a reason to tune back in. But that didn't happen, man. It just, they kind of kept them at that 15 or so point threshold, and it never got any better.
It's interesting. Before we dive into the game and what can happen or what did happen, Diesel, you and I spent a lot of time last week talking about the NBA ratings and how bad they've been. I don't know if this is just going to be a one-off or if this is what's to come every year in the NBA Finals. But I'll tell you this. My opinion, if this is the NBA Finals, and I don't mean these two teams. I'm just saying if this is the NBA Finals for the next decade, this sport will die. This sport will completely die. Nobody wants to watch two small market teams go at it. You say, Cole, they play defense. You don't know what you're talking about. That's great. But guess what? There are other teams that would have played defense if they could have been better defensively to make it to the finals. Like everybody tries, maybe this team's better defensively than this team. And again, I don't want it to sound like I'm taking credit away from Oklahoma City because they were really good defensively. But I do agree with what Stephen A. Smith said this morning. When I look back at historically great teams, this Oklahoma City team isn't even in the conversation.
No, they're not. But, I mean, we had a tremendous amount of parity in this series. Both of these teams really good defensively. And, it kind of goes back to that argument, that question, what kind of basketball, what kind of sport in general do we want to see? If we're watching the Super Bowl and this thing ends up as a 14-10 tie and it's kind of decided early and nobody can really make a move late in the game, we're going to look at it and say, well, that game sucked because nobody was scoring points. Do we want football games to have scores up in the 40s, 50s?
Yeah.
Do we want NBA games to have scores up in the 130s, 140s? Or do we want to see defensive struggles? And we got a defensive struggle in this series. Certainly with Tyrese Halliburton, being hampered in games 5, 6, and 7. That certainly changes some things for the Pacers. But, do we really want defensive games? People say they do. They text in and they say, man, I miss when they actually play defense in this league. But do they really?
That's a good point. It's a good point. As people say, but do the ratings prove that? We don't know. So far, they haven't. My biggest takeaways, Diesel, number one, you just brought up Tyrese Halliburton. Him going down in what was a horrible injury to watch with him just beating the floor. You knew right then when you saw his emotion, you just knew that something bad had happened, right? There was an Achilles, something popped, something tore. And Diesel, he came out last night playing really, really good, like really good. So him going down changed the game drastically. So here I am talking about how boring the game was. I will say this, though. If Tyrese Halliburton doesn't go down, I'm not so sure the Thunder win. I think last night Tyrese Halliburton came out and Indiana was setting the tone, and Indiana kind of looked like the better team in the first, I don't know how many ever minutes before Tyrese Halliburton went down, Diesel, but him going down, it's something that I don't know if the NBA can ever fix, but the history in the past decade of stars in the finals going down because of injury, it's tragic, man.
Yeah, maybe it means that series are too long. Maybe it means the season in general is too long.
I think that's, yeah.
Maybe it says that, we should reduce travel to give these guys more time to rehab. I don't know. I mean, now that we're in a 2-2 and then they bounce back and forth for the final 3 games format, there's a lot of travel back and forth. And I know these guys, they have all the therapy equipment they could ever need, right? You get it as soon as you come off the floor. You're in the tub or you're on the table getting worked on basically nonstop if you're injured between games. But, the truth is rest is the only cure for that. And being off your feet and not at it constantly, that's the only cure for it. So either you got to shorten the series or you got to make the series longer. And we all complain when the series is too long. We all complain that this thing stretches out over 2 weeks.
I think the season's too long. I really do. And again, not to go into a rabbit hole there, Diesel, but last night, Indiana, when you talk about what happened, what went wrong, the bottom line is you can't turn the ball over 23 times. Now, I will say, as much as I talked about this game being boring, when you look at Oklahoma City, Diesel in the history of this series, going back all the way to Game 1, Indiana was very turnover prone, and that's on Oklahoma City. Like, that's credit to Oklahoma City in their defensive prowess. When they put so much pressure on you that in Game 7, they're able to turn you over 23 times compared to only 8 turnovers off of yourself. And 32 points, by the way, came off of those turnovers. That's huge. That is a huge advantage. And again, that goes back to Oklahoma City having such a good defensive unit. They had more points in the paint last night. SGA was himself. We all know how good he's been all season long. He had 29 last night, Diesel. And then Jalen Williams. I love this. Last night when SGA got the Finals MVP trophy, he handed it to Jalen Williams because he said it's as much his as it is mine. Jalen Williams has been balling out this final. So they were really good. I'm taking no credit away from them. They earned it.
Indiana averaged 89 field goal attempts per game this season. Last night, the Oklahoma City Thunder held them to 70.
Yeah.
19 shots shy of what they typically shoot. Now, obviously, a big part of that is Tyrese Halliburton going down. And to your point, there's no way to prevent stars from getting injured in the biggest games. It's just a fact of the game. It is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. What you can do about it is build depth and hope that your stars don't get injured in the worst possible times, and that's what happened here. But if you just take the 19 shots, Cole, that Indiana didn't take in this game, shy of their average, and then you multiply their 40% field goal percentage during that game, you're talking about 9 shots. You're talking about eight or 9 baskets going in, and now you're talking about a completely different ball game. You're talking about a 16-point swing if you count them all as twos. So you're talking about Indiana winning that game if they only get their average number of shots off.
Yeah, it's true. I will say this: Tyrese Halliburton last night, Diesel, in the 7 minutes that he played, he was 3 of 5. He came out very aggressive. He was 3 of 4 from long range. He didn't turn the ball over. He had 9 points. I'm sorry, he did have 1 turnover. He had 9 points. He was incredible last night, and he played 7 minutes. And that's what's so sad. I saw a lot of reaction on Twitter and on social media, Diesel, from Indiana Pacers fans, just how heartbroken they were, just because of what could have been. To your point, when you have a star go down, Pascal Siakam last night was really good. He had 16 points. He was 5 of 13, but Pascal Siakam's not your one. He's not. I hate to say this. He's not anybody's one. Andrew Nembhard's. He's not a 1. He had 15 last night, but again, you had to have T.J. McConnell come off the bench with 16, and you had to have Benedict come off the bench with 24, Diesel, just to keep you in the game.
Yeah, I really put this on the starters outside of Siakam and Nembhard. Turner and Nesmith definitely fell way short of what they typically give you as far as points per game, and that is the biggest key. Because outside of that, you said it, they had two key contributors off the bench, McConnell and Matherin, both of them, 16 and 24 points respectively. Tell me how it happens that Obi Toppin, what did he have in game number 6? Like 30 points, 25, 30 points. He was insane in game 6. He gave him 0 in game 7.
That's not good.
0. He played 21 minutes, 0 for 4 from field goal. How does that happen?
Yeah.
He did not show up at all in game 7.
On the Hub City Spartanburgers text line at 844-326-3663, Dewey says Game 7 sucked. The presentation was horrible. It felt like a regular season game. Rob Brown was wrong. Dewey, I know this doesn't happen. Oh, whoa. Dewey's supposed to be on suspension.
Dewey.
Can he text on suspension?
What was the bet again?
The bet was Dewey said the Braves would get swept, remember? And the Braves won 1.
Oh.
So if the Braves didn't get swept, he was on I guess it's just from calling the show. That's fine. He can still text. Just from calling the show, Dewey can't call until Friday. I won't be here Friday.
Oh.
You'll be solo Friday. So when I leave Diesel for Nicaragua on Friday, Dewey's suspension is over. He lost a bet. He's suspended for 4. Sorry, Dewey, but maybe the rest of the Tolos are excited about that. But the Braves almost got swept. They won 1 game.
I can't wait for that paragraph of a text that comes in on the show at 3 o'clock Friday afternoon.
Oh, he'll be on the phone
This
lines.
thing sucked. This thing sucked. He's going to have a list of like 10 things that suck.
Imagine how long his phone call will be on Friday. He might do a whole segment with you. He's had a 4-day suspension, and Dewey takes
You
back.
You have an
in.
ice pick that I can ram my forehead into?
He says, I said call, not text, in fairness. The Braves lost the series. And I think you're right, Dewey. I'm going to honor that. So you can't call, you can text, but we do not have to hear your voice for 4 days unless it's, this.
Y'all need to be fired.
JD says nobody puts Dewey in a corner. Y'all need to be fired.
Yeah, he does. Guess what? We just painted
Y'all
him in
need
the
to be
corner,
fired.
JD. That's exactly what we did, serving the suspension. But he's a man of his word. I like that. But, Tolos, we are going to allow you to call at 5 o'clock. Just a quick reminder, Overreaction Monday. We know sports are dwindling down. I mean, the overreactions are going to be really good in about 2 months. But right now there's not a lot. But we want to let you know to go ahead and start thinking about what your overreaction will be at 5 o'clock, Diesel. You know what happened this weekend? Or within the span of a week? NHL over, NBA over, college baseball over. What else? Am I missing anything? I think that's it, right?
Can I open these windows and jump out, because I'm not excited about the next 4 months. I know some of you Tolos just love. It feels like it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's 9 weeks until college football is here.
No, 8
weeks
now.
now.
Yeah.
2 months away. Yeah. Look, I know a lot of people love the prediction conversations. I don't. I don't love predicting, because nobody knows, right? Nobody knows. And I hate feeling stupid after the fact when I've been saying for 2 months that Syracuse is going to win the national championship because they got this great quarterback, and then he sucks. I don't like doing that.
Well,
I'm just pulling the example out of nowhere, right? I mean,
yeah.
Granted, I did say, was it last year or the year before? I think it was last year, when I was really high on the Virginia Tech quarterback who ended up stinking last year. And I thought that dude was going to have Virginia Tech as a decent team, not a playoff team. I never said that. But, logic dictates certain things, and you talk about certain things, and then none of it comes true, and you're like, what have we been doing with the last 2 months of our lives?
that is your fault, because some people believe that if you think positively, you can impact what happens. You
know
just
what?
didn't know that.
I think I'm going to call it right now, Cole. I'm going to put all of my will and my positive thoughts into making Ball State the national champions.
And what?
It's going right?
Yeah.
Rifle. We'll do
They
it.
might. Archery. They might have archery. It might be a good water polo.
Yeah. When we come back, Cole, I love this. Will Wade ain't messing around. Will Wade already taking shots at those baby blue you-know-whats across the road in Chapel Hill. We'll detail the situation next. Well, it wouldn't be a rivalry if you don't take every possible opportunity to needle the guys on the other side. Will Wade, who devastated his alma mater, winning the head-to-head matchup against Clemson with McNeese State in the NCAA tournament. He is now the head coach at NC State. And they've taken a North Carolina transfer onto their roster. Van Allen Lubin, who played for North Carolina, is now an NC State Wolfpack. And Will Wade, in his introductory press conference, took a shot at North Carolina. And Cole, the question is he wrong here? This was the quote. The other school was too dumb to play him. When Lubin plays 28-plus minutes, he's done that in 23 games. He averages 15 and 8. I don't know why the hell they didn't play him, but we're going to play him. So he's going to average 15 and 8. We're very excited about Ven.
Woo, I love that. Initial knee-jerk reaction. I love it. I'll tell you this, North Carolina State, they desperately need somebody like this.
He's the perfect guy to lead that program.
And you tell you what, another thing about that, is he wrong? Well, guess what? That's TBD. He may be wrong. He may not be wrong. But I will say this. When you talk about Will Wade being able to use the portal, Diesel, in today's era of college basketball, are we so sure that it's going to take Will Wade and NC State a long, long time to surpass North Carolina? They've stunk. No. They have stunk under Hubert Davis. They've made the tournament 2 out of 4 years, missed it 2. I'm just saying, man, NC State could pull a bamboozle and bamboozle us all, right? If
Bambooble?
Bamboozle, yeah, bamboozle
nice.
us.
I like this.
Especially
when they come in pairs.
Listen, if they use the portal effectively, and all of a sudden NC State's the top school and performing better, beating them head to head, making the tournament, I'm not putting it out there that it's going to happen. I'm just saying it wouldn't surprise me if it did.
Yeah. Well, NC State, to me, being a North Carolinian, NC State has always felt like the blue-collar school compared to North Carolina and Duke being the white-collar schools, right? I mean, you got Duke and North Carolina and Wake Forest, all with law schools, all with med schools, and you go on NC State's campus, and it's just a bunch of brick buildings where they turn out engineers, and it felt like, man, this is the working man school.
Yeah.
Whereas the other ones, they're the ones who talk down to the working man. But it's so good. It's so good to see a trash-talking coach enter this rivalry, this three-way rivalry, right? I mean, because he's going to be going after Duke at some point. He's taking shots at North Carolina already. I love it. I love it. Now, Van Allen Lubin, yeah, again, we'll see, because he has now transferred 3 times. He was at Vanderbilt, at Notre Dame, at North Carolina, and now he's at NC State. He has looked good when he's gotten significant minutes. I have no reason to believe that his talent will take a hit under Will Wade. Will Wade is a heck of a coach. I mean, he took McNeese State to what? The round of 16? Where'd they get? How far did they get? 16 or 32?
They beat Clemson.
No, they beat the tar out of Clemson. So I love it. I love it. So
I want to say
this, please.
Dune Port on the YouTube stream says it would take a lot of national championships for NC State to catch up to Carolina. That's not what I mean. I'm talking about right now, present day, to be the better program. You can talk about NC State not having the history. That's fine. But I'm talking about being the better program today. It won't take North Carolina State that long, if they do it effectively, Diesel, to catch North Carolina in terms of being the better program today.
Yeah.
That's the big difference.
This is a what have you done for me lately business, right? I mean, it's great. You can say we have, what does North Carolina have? 7 national. It's great to say we have 7 national championships. But when was the last one? What happened in the last 2 times we played each other head to head? If we're beating you 2 out of 3 right now, that's all that matters.
Yeah. It is.
That's all that matters.
All that matters is winning, and that's what LSU did, Diesel. LSU won. We opened the show by talking about what happened with Kevin Schnall. If you just tuned into the show or maybe missed that first segment, we'll dive back into the college baseball conversation, and we'll get into what happened in the game. What was so impressive about LSU's 2 victories over Coastal Carolina? Was Coastal outmatched, in your opinion? 844-326-3663. We'll have that conversation next. Did you watch the College World Series Saturday and Sunday? Did you take it in when Kevin Schnall was told in the very first inning of play? Diesel and I talked about it. We opened the show with it about 1 hour ago, and we're going to dive right back into it. As we know, a lot of you Tolos just getting off work. If you do get off work at 4 o'clock, I'm envious of you. It must be
What's
nice.
that like?
Yeah, it really must. What is it like? I'd love to know.
Well,
At
those same people
844-FANFO.
also have to get up at like 5 a.m., and that's not fun either.
Yeah, I did have a shift, though, one time. I say a shift. I had a job, Diesel, where I worked 7 to 4 and loved it. Getting up early, yeah, you got to get up early, but getting off at 4, I loved it.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it. Now, now we don't have to come in till later, but we don't get off till later.
Well,
7
we don't come in until 2:30 before the show starts, but we do our jobs, a big part of our jobs, before we even come in.
Yeah, we do. That's right. The show is done before you and I step foot in the building. It is. We'll do it at night. We'll do it in the morning. We're show prepping, putting content together for you Tolos, putting audio together for you Tolos, like we have coming up at what time today? 5:20. A renamed, soon to be rebranded sports soundtrack for you Tolos out there. 5:20 today. A lot of Kevin Schnall audio, NBA audio, Tommy Fleetwood audio. Good Lord, we'll get into that at 5 o'clock.
Brutal.
That's brutal, isn't it?
What's more brutal? Tommy Fleetwood bogeying 16 and 18 and losing by a stroke. Or this friggin' heat, 94 degrees.
I'll tell you this, man. I don't necessarily hate the heat, and
I don't hate it for like 5-10 minutes, and then I'm done with it. I'm done with it.
I don't know if it's just as I'm getting older. Maybe I'm starting to like it more. But I'll tell you this: like,
When are you moving to Florida?
tomorrow? I love days like this. It's cloudy now, but when it's I guess it's gonna storm later. I don't know. But I like just laying out. Just laying and just getting all the sun. I love it. Getting that vitamin sun is what I call it, Diesel. We also have Cory Diaz coming up in 15 minutes on the show. He covers LSU baseball for USA Today.
How many of our Tolos, because I got that Duke Energy text about, was it 2 o'clock, 1:30, saying, hey, guys, could you really help us out tonight and, like, not turn everything on between 3 and 8 o'clock because energy stores are low? Is anybody going to actually choose to leave things off? Is anybody going to bump their AC up a few degrees to help out? No. No, you're not going to do that. As a matter of fact, I put up a poll asking that question on my Diesel on Radio Twitter page earlier. It says, I got an alert from Duke Energy saying we should all limit our power use this afternoon during the extreme heat. If you got this alert, do you plan to reduce your usage in any way? 82% said not no, but
man.
hell no.
Really? Shocker.
Nobody's going to turn their AC up. We want to be comfortable.
What is this time of year, summertime? Well, it's always for me, but what is your thermostat set on when you're at home?
Well, it's on a schedule. It's one of those smart ones. But generally speaking, in the daytime, it bumps to like 71 degrees when there's nobody at home.
Yeah,
so we got animals in the house.
I do too.
And then in the evening, once we get home, it comes down to like 68 degrees.
68 is where I keep mine. If I'm home, I want it to be 68. And anytime I ever have somebody over, it's like, oh gosh, it's so cold in here. I love it though. I love 68.
I watched a video where they kind of did like man on the street questions and answers from NBA players. And so they're just stopping players as they're coming into the building. Or it might have been football players, doesn't matter. But they're asking them, like, what do you keep your thermostat set to at night? And one dude, I swear to you, says 61 degrees.
That's ridiculous.
That's too cold. And then somebody else said 76. Get out of here with 76.
That's old people do that.
Get out of here. And he was a big dude, right? Probably like a linebacker. Big dude. Tolos, where do you set your thermostat? 844-326-3663.
Michael Davis says 72 for him.
No.
That's hot. That is hot.
Maybe with a bunch of fans going,
Now,
it's tolerable. But
I will turn mine to 71, 72 when I'm gone.
Sure.
Like if I'm going to be gone all day, which is most days, I'll turn mine up to 70, 72, something like that. But if I'm there, especially at night, I want that thing 68.
Well, if it's set too high, it doesn't cycle on enough and scrub that humidity out of the air.
Yeah, you got to have it on. You got to run it. Run that freaking AC. Good time of year to be in the AC business, Diesel. Last night, Yesterday, the College World Series came to a close. LSU took care of business in not one, not three, but two games. And you know what? I asked the question on the other side. I want to ask it again now. In your mind, was Coastal Carolina outmatched? I have a couple of takeaways from Saturday's and Sunday's game, but I'll start by answering my own question while we get some feedback from the Tolos, Diesel, and you as well. I don't think Coastal Carolina was outmatched. In fact, I think Coastal Carolina was the next best team. Well, you say, Cole, obviously they were, runners up. Well, you look at what they did against LSU, Diesel, in two games. On Saturday, they lost 1-0. On Sunday, they lost 5-3. And if you look at the box score for both games, here's the box score. LSU scored 1 in the first inning on Saturday. They didn't score again until the third inning on Sunday. So Coastal Carolina's pitching was good. However, here's why I tell you that I do not think Coastal Carolina was outmatched. In two games, Coastal Carolina, Diesel, had one inning that cost them. The fourth inning, and what we talked about this last week with the game of baseball, how this works. You can have one bad inning. We talked about it. Coastal Carolina in game two gave up a 4 spot in the fourth inning, and basically that was the series. But other than that one inning, I do believe Coastal Carolina was almost as good as LSU. You might think they were outmatched, but I don't, Diesel.
Yeah, I mean, you look across the series, starters and relievers outside of that fourth yesterday, or on Saturday, played really good. They played Sunday, played really good baseball. They pitched well. I mean, I thought that when Mijos from Coastal hit that home run in Sunday's game, I thought maybe the whole Kevin Schnall thing had fired them up to the point where they were going to play with a chip on their shoulder, and then just start hitting the ball all over the yard. Maybe you get to the fifth inning or so, and it's a 4-5-6-0 kind of game, and LSU just kind of throws in the towel and says, all right, we'll regroup for a winner-take-all game on Monday. Wasn't the case, though.
No, it wasn't. JD on the YouTube stream says Coastal had a ton of chances. They were like 1-16 with runners in scoring position, I think, plus they only hit one home run. Again, I will say LSU's pitching was as advertised. It was dominant. You look at the box score. You look at the stats. LSU's Cade Anderson on Saturday, Diesel, pitched 9 innings. In 9 innings, he allowed 3 hits, 5 base home balls, and he struck out 10. A 3.18 ERA. Cade Anderson won the series before game 2. I'm telling you, man, he was spectacular. Now, taking nothing away from Ianson and Shores yesterday. They were incredible.
Shores was amazing.
Yeah.
Ianson was really good. He wasn't fantastic. He was really good. But Shores was nuts.
Closed it out.
He was on another planet.
He closed it out. He, let's see, in 2 innings, he allowed 2 hits, no runs, 2 strikeouts, no home runs. He had, let's see, I'm reading that wrong. That is Saturday. Shores pitched 2.2 innings. He allowed 1 hit, 0 runs, 0 errors, 0 base on balls, 4 strikeouts, and an ERA. He came into the game like a 5.09 ERA. Again, not a lot of innings pitched. That's how an ERA is calculated. But my takeaways, number one, Diesel, 1 bad inning cost Coastal the series. I really do believe that.
Well,
and, I thought other than that, they were evenly matched.
You look at yesterday's game, and Coastal they weren't themselves in the sense that they weren't able to put a lot of contact on the ball and get it out and then play small ball. Coastal swung and missed on 27 pitches yesterday.
Yeah.
That's a lot. LSU swung and missed on 17. And again, that doesn't include called strikes. That doesn't include foul strikes. They swung and missed 27 times. That's not how Coastal Carolina plays baseball.
And sometimes you just run into a pitcher or 2 or 3 that's better than you are. And I know that sounds really simple. I'm not going to give you some crazy made-up take, Diesel, but sometimes you just run into a better pitcher. And that's what Coastal did because LSU's pitchers were incredible. My second takeaway was that Cade Anderson was the star of the series. I mean, he was just so good on Saturday. As I mentioned his stats a minute ago, 9 innings pitched. He just kept getting better as the game went on. And Diesel, I was following along with that game. I was on the lake Saturday, but I was keeping up with it on the ESPN app. And the whole time I was like still hopeful because it was only 1-0. I said, hey, Coastal gets up there and knocks a couple, runs in. All of a sudden, they might can win this game. It just shows how strong Cade Anderson was, that he did not allow Coastal Carolina to breathe. On Saturday, to JD's point, Coastal was 0-7 with runners in scoring position. So that didn't help. You were not timely. You didn't have the clutch hitting like you did have, all throughout the season. And then my last takeaway, Diesel, I said this to start the show in the first segment, regardless of if Kevin Schnall was ejected, Coastal was not winning yesterday. That fourth inning is just simply what did Coastal in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, Coastal can hit good teams. I don't think it was that LSU's pitching was just so much better than everyone else's because they put up 18 runs on a really good East Carolina in the Conway Regional. They put up a total of 11 runs on a really good Auburn in the Auburn Super Regional. They put up 7 on Arizona, 6 on Oregon State, 11 against Louisville. That's a team that can hit. I think they ran up against the wrong pitcher at the wrong time for them. And I think they were reaching, especially on Sunday. They were reaching a lot, swinging at a lot of pitches they don't normally swing at, and they just weren't making contact. I mean, it's just one of those freaky things. Baseball is a funny sport like that.
If Coastal, before we get to the text line, Diesel, if Coastal in my mind and LSU were to have met in a regional format, maybe Coastal gets them. Maybe in a regional format where LSU isn't able to throw their 1-2 punch at them in a 3-game series, maybe Coastal can get them, in a regional format because maybe Coastal's not having to see their 1-2, right? We all know how regional formats work. But in a best of 3 series in baseball allows you, Diesel, to showcase your best pitchers. And LSU's best pitchers were just simply better than everybody else in the country. And ultimately, that's why they won their, 8th College World Series, and they're, what you said earlier, their 2nd in 3 years. They've been good. And let's be honest, they had to replace a ton of players. I think Jay Johnson deserves a ton of credit, Diesel, because they've had to replace players. This era of the portal, they weren't just stacked a couple of years ago after that national championship team left. He's done an incredible job replacing this talent year in and year out.
Well, who is it? The texter, Buckeye Brian, just said, too many called strikes on Saturday. Coastal wouldn't swing the bat. So there you go, Buckeye Brian. I think that plays right into the heart of what we were just saying.
Yeah, it does.
Is they were not aggressive enough on Saturday. Wouldn't get the ball off their shoulder. And by the way, I have the numbers here. It makes it easy when only one pitcher threw for LSU on Saturday. 27 called strikes, 22 strikes on swings, and then 15 foul balls in play. So it sort of flips, right? You look at the Saturday stat line, they kept the bat on their shoulder and watched 27 strikes go by. On Sunday, they swung and missed at 27 strikes. And that number flips from called strikes to swinging strikes. And I think that was just, there's something in that mentality of down 0-1 in the College World Series.
Tough.
We have to get aggressive right now, and they were just whiffing.
Yeah, it's tough.
And it's also, another thing when your opposing pitcher is consistently throwing 99, 100, 101, 102. I mean, he was lighting up triple digits on that radar all game.
Michael on the YouTube stream says, what a run for Coastal, though. Something like 26 straight wins in a row is awesome. And I'm glad you brought that up, Michael, because while LSU was the better team this weekend, 110%, congratulations to Kevin Schnall and Coastal on just a flat, incredible season. I mean, they were terrific. Diesel, you look at it as one of the best years Coastal Carolina has ever had in the history of the program. So they deserve a ton of credit. They ran up against a really good LSU team. And you know what? I don't think anybody can argue that this LSU team was just flat better. They had the arms, and in college baseball, if you have the arms, you can hold down those offenses, and that's what LSU did. But taking no credit away from the run that Coastal had. If you don't give Coastal the respect they deserve, something's wrong with you. They had a terrific season. They beat Clemson twice. They beat everybody. And, to your point about the winning streak, that's what a winning culture does, right? When you have a winning culture in place, Coastal Carolina Diesel, even though they lost in the College World Series, it is still Coastal State, and everybody else is chasing them.
That's true.
That's it.
Do you know, Cole, and I think the answer to this is yes, so confirm it for me. If this decision is upheld on Kevin Schnall's suspension, he has to miss the first game of next year, right?
Yep, just like Bakich did.
Do you think he misses the first game, or do you think the NCAA changes their minds on the ruling that the umpire who says that he was bumped, who was not bumped, who then called for a 2-game suspension, do you think it's upheld, or do you think it gets overturned?
I 110% think it should be overturned, but do I have faith that the NCAA will do that? Not really. I really don't. I mean, if I had a bet right now, Diesel, if I had to bet money on it, I'd say it doesn't. I just, again, it's the NCAA. What are we asking here, right?
I mean, this isn't the Philly Fanatic, though. He doesn't run up and bump people with his belly on purpose. Yeah. Right? That's not what Kevin Schnall did. He didn't touch him.
He didn't touch him. And that has to be looked at. It has to be looked at. Texter from the 978 says it's not easy to follow in the footsteps of a legend like Gary Gilmore, but Kevin Schnall passed the test with flying colors. He has proven he was the right choice. And again, going back to that point, Diesel, here's the thing about Kevin Schnall. We've mentioned maybe somebody will come grab him up. He loves Coastal. You hear him talk. He loves Coastal. Nobody in the history of college baseball has put the time in that Kevin, and again, I'm saying this tongue-in-cheek, that's put the time in that Kevin Schnall put the time in, Diesel, to get this head job. He did. He put the time in. He got the job. I think he loves it. Am I saying he'll retire there? I don't know. Money, changes people's mind, but I will tell you, this guy loves Coastal Carolina, and it would shock me if he's leaving anytime soon.
Well, think about this. The pressure, while it is high at Coastal, right, they expect you to win baseball games. It's not SEC level pressure. And you're telling me that I can live by the beach, make a good living, right? I don't know what his salary is, but I guarantee you it's a lot more than what you and I make, Cole. Coach baseball at your alma mater where you played your college ball, where you've been around for, 22 of 29 seasons he was there with Gary Gilmore.
Yeah.
And still make the College World Series? Yeah, sign me up for that. If I'm making, $500,000 to coach baseball, I'm a happy man.
It was reported in February that Schnall makes $375 a year, which is for college baseball
incentives,
coaches.
I'm sure.
College baseball coaches, that's not a ton, but it's a good living.
Still a lot of money.
Living.
A lot of money. When we come back, we'll continue this discussion on college baseball and the College World Series, but from the LSU Tigers perspective. Cory Diaz, who covers LSU baseball for the USA Today Network. You can find him on Twitter @ByCoryDiaz. He's going to join us next. And just like that, the 2024-25 college athletic season comes to a close with the LSU Tigers winning their second national championship in 3 years. Congratulations to Coach Jay Johnson and the team. Well deserved, a fantastic season when it looked like it was going to go off the rails. They turned this thing back around and they got it done. Welcome into the show, Cory Diaz, who covers LSU baseball for the USA Today Network. Cory, I promise we're going to actually get into it and talk baseball here in just a second, but straight out of the jump, the story that everybody's talking about today was Kevin Schnall getting tossed in the bottom of the first. Now, Jay Johnson made a statement after game one about his run-in with the umpires and said that he needed to remain poised for his team. Can you tell us, has Jay made any statements about his opponent being tossed in game number 2? And do you think Schnall being tossed for that exact situation was warranted?
Yeah, well, first off, good afternoon, guys. Appreciate you guys having me on again. Jay was asked about it yesterday in post-game press conference, and really just kind of the only thing he said about it was, that, in these kinds of situations, finding ways, kind of like you just mentioned, finding ways to just keep your composure and your poise is kind of the ways to get through that. Obviously, Jay's known Kevin for a long time. Jay has mentioned that he feels like they have a friendship more so outside of just the coaching circles. So I know there's a ton of respect that Jay has for Kevin Schnall and the Coastal Carolina baseball program. And, just like for me in the press box, I don't know. I felt it was just kind of tough that game 2 of the College World Series championship series, and there you've got the head coach of one of the teams being ejected in the bottom of the first inning. I mean, it just didn't. I don't know. It didn't quite sit right with me. That's just like a very personal take. I just didn't think that. Sometimes I just think discretion, really could go a long way, especially in college baseball. And I don't know. It didn't really. I didn't think he deserved it. But also, if you go by the rule book, he was violating, one of the rules in the NCAA rule book. So I guess, if you're the umpire, you have to stick by it. But it's just like a really tough situation. I thought it could have been something, those things always like either galvanizes the team, right, or it kind of makes them, sort of unravel a little bit. I thought Mijos' home run in the bottom of the second might have been, that indicator that, okay, well then maybe Schnall, maybe he kind of galvanized his team a little bit. Well, then LSU answered right back there in the top of the third to tie it up and just completely snatched the momentum, back away from Coastal. So it just felt like the entire 2 games that Coastal they were just unable to get any momentum going.
Cory, do you, from the press box and from what the fans could see, did it look like in the moment that Kevin Schnall bumped into one of the officials that fell and immediately got up and gave him the 2-game suspension?
From my vantage point, which looking straight down, I think I was in about the 9th seat. So the press box at Charles Schwab Field kind of runs from like basically I'd say maybe 10 feet to the left-hand side of home plate and runs up the third base line. So I was probably kind of right in the middle of the third baseline path. My vantage point, it looked like the home plate umpire's feet got tangled up with the first base umpire's feet. That's what I saw. Again, Kevin's back was to us, obviously, so we couldn't see like where technically his hands were. But I personally didn't think Kevin bumped the guy. I thought that the two umpires got their legs sort of tangled up, and the guy went down.
So, Cory, both of LSU's pitchers did a phenomenal job yesterday, keeping the ball on the outside of the plate, forcing Coastal hitters to chase, and that really took away the small ball offensive nature of Coastal and what they like to do. Was that the strategy all along? Was just essentially play keep away, but do a great job as they both did, both of the pitchers yesterday, keeping it just there on the edge of the strike zone. Was that the game plan all along?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I think when you have a pitching staff that Jay and his his coaching staff had this year, I think that's part of their game plan. Regardless of who's in the lineup. Honestly, when you got a Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson, a Chase Shores, a Maverick Rizzi, a Kason Evans. I mean, these guys that they really sort of just dominate and they pound the strike zone. But I also think a big part of it, Cole, is Jay and the pitchers, their belief and trust in the defense behind them. I personally, I think this is my 8th year of covering college baseball for a handful of different teams, right? And I can, without any doubt or hesitation, say that this was the best defensive college baseball team I've ever covered. When you've got Stephen Milam at shortstop, Danny Dickinson at second, Michael Braswell, who's a lifelong shortstop, transitioned to third base and just immediately moved into that role and had zero issues whatsoever with the transition. Jared Jones, very underrated defensive first baseman, stretches really well. He leads the throws into his glove just as good as anybody that I've ever seen at the position from a journalism standpoint. And then obviously the outfield was, Stanfield, Curiel, and the sort of the quote unquote platoon they had out in right field this year. All those guys were, I would say, average to above average fielders, so it's like, I just think they just trust their defense, man. And that's why they sort of lived as close and or inside of the strike zone all 68 games this year as much as they did because of how good the defense behind them was.
Cory, Diaz, USA Today Network, joining us right here on the Fan Upstate. Cory, we had a texter in the last segment explaining the Schnall suspension, 2 games, the Coastal Carolina first base coach suspension, 3 games. We asked the question if the NCAA would look at what happened during the offseason. In your mind, do you think they should? And also the second part of that question is, do you think they will?
Yeah, those are very good questions. I mean, personally, we're going to suspend a guy for something that happened, 8 months prior. I don't know. That's kind of weird. But there's been some retroactive, suspensions for coaches in other sports, right? So I wouldn't be shocked if the NCAA, just sort of, I guess, ask some questions to maybe the umpires and maybe even to Kevin and some maybe, Matt Schilling as well, just to sort of see if it's something that they want to hold up and carry into the 2026 baseball season. But at this point, man, look, it's like, hey, like the 25 season's over. Like, let's just let's wipe the slate clean and let's just get ready for 2026. And then when they roll the balls back out next February, let's just let them coach and let them play.
Talking to Cory Diaz of the USA Today Network, covers LSU baseball. Now that they've won 2 out of 3, how does that really propel and feed into more recruiting success? They did it, 2 years ago they won 1. What was the immediate spark as far as recruiting goes for LSU, and will this be amped up even more after winning 2 out of 3?
Yeah, I mean, I think, if you're an 18-year-old kid, 17-year-old kid coming out of high school right now, and I think if you're sitting there and your phone rang today and Jay Johnson is on the other line, I think those kids would certainly listen to any and every word that he had to say to them. He obviously, if there's one thing that I've learned from this weekend was my 3rd national championship that I've covered, from a college, beat perspective. And if there's one thing that I've learned is that usually the post-game press conference after a coach wins the national championship, it's all a big recruiting pitch. It's like, look, if you want to, it's like Jay said, right? Like if you want to become an MLB pitcher, like there's no one developing, pitchers that get to the league better than we are. And he rattled off like 15 names, right? Like, And look, there's obviously going to be, I would say, minimum of 3 guys that will probably be selected, a potential, fourth, right? That could be potentially picked in the first 3 rounds of the MLB draft, coming up here next month. So, winning it is always going to help you in recruiting. And I think, to me, what Jay and his staff do that I think probably catches high schoolers' attention as much as anything is you can come to LSU, and if you are good enough, you play, even if you're an 18-year-old freshman. I mean, look at Curiel there in left field. Derek basically came in and took a spot from a guy who started 40 games last year. And that guy, Ashton Larson, very good baseball player. Don't get me wrong, he's one of the nicest kids on the team. Ashton is great. But Derek came in and took a spot. He's going to play the best players. And if you're a freshman, you're coming in, you think you're good enough to play at LSU, you come in and you prove it over fall ball, you prove it over the winter conditioning, you prove it over, the preseason practices, Jay Johnson will play. So, I think that matters and factors into recruiting for Jay and his staff at LSU just as much as anything else.
Hey, Cory, earlier in the show, we asked the question to our audience if just very simply put, we thought Coastal Carolina was outmatched. I gave the argument that I didn't think they were completely outmatched. I mean, you look at one bad inning on Sunday, the 4th inning, I believe, where they gave up like 4 runs, whatever inning that was, pretty early in the game. But other than that, these two teams went at it, and it was just one bad inning that gave LSU that big lead on Sunday. In your mind, seeing these two teams in person, was Coastal Carolina outmatched?
I think overall, no. I think there were probably just a couple of spots like, on the, quote-unquote lineup or quote-unquote depth chart. I know that's not really a term used in baseball, but, I just thought that, LSU, its top 2 arms out of the bullpen is probably better than any, 2 arms that Coastal would have coming out of the bullpen. So I think that was an advantage that LSU had in this series. I thought from a starting pitching perspective, I think they were really close. I would have liked to have seen Eichhoff pitch in the series at some point because I was really curious to see how he would sort of handle and match up with LSU's lineup. But I know he wasn't going to be available and couldn't go with the short rest, which is unfortunate for the Chanticleers. But I just thought that, to me, the biggest thing was when Cade was able to throw all 9 innings on Friday. I mean, it kind of, that weirdly enough kind of sealed the deal because LSU had literally everyone from a pitching staff perspective available. They could have, like Jay and Nate Yeske, the pitching coach, they could have done whatever they wanted to on Sunday in a potential Monday game. And when you're LSU and you have that at your disposal to try to go win a national championship in 1 and/or 2 games, I mean, it's pretty much in the bag. There was a reason why I voted for Cade Anderson as the most outstanding player. It was because, I mean, yeah, he won game 1. He pitched a shutout, complete game, only allowed 3 hits, struck out 10. Yeah, it's an amazing stat line. But he basically set LSU up to go win it. Like, that's what he did. Like, he not only won 1 game, but he basically set the team up to go win it. And so, but offensively, I thought Coastal's got a really good lineup. The only thing that I was a little surprised by was, I guess, again, it kind of goes back to the momentum thing that I mentioned earlier. They couldn't really string 2 hits together. They were making pretty good contact on the ball, even when Cade Anderson was pitching, on Saturday night. Made good contact, just couldn't string things together like we had seen them do literally throughout the entire NCAA tournament, and even going back, beyond that, during that 26-game win streak that they had. It was just like they couldn't do what they had been doing offensively, before that. So, but I thought these were 2 really, Coastal, hard to say if they're a better team than Arkansas, because I thought Arkansas's lineup arguably was probably the best lineup in the country. But I do think they're like a top 3 or top 4 team in the country this year.
Cory, I don't know if this is a saying or if there's another one, but nobody parties like LSU Tigers when they're winning. And if you look at just looking at the Rocco's Jello Shot Challenge, I mean, the field outside of LSU bought 34,283 Jello shots. LSU by themselves bought 52,390 Jello shots, so almost doubled. Does anybody need to call Baton Rouge and check on everybody's liver conditions? Because with that many shots sold, it's ludicrous to dwarf the field to that point. What is the party going to look like in your mind in Baton Rouge? I mean, how big do they go for baseball national championships?
Listen, if you believe in like human adaptability and evolution, I can assure you, livers within the state of Louisiana are conditioned for 50,000 plus Jello shots. So I promise you, everyone's liver is great. You know what I mean? Like no problem whatsoever. But in terms of the celebration, man, like they announced their they're going to have the national championship celebration at Alex Box Stadium Wednesday night. And I promise you, like, I remember 2 years ago, I helped our LSU beat writer at the time, cover that national championship celebration. And, like, I remember pulling up to the parking lot and, like, there were folks tailgating like a game was going to happen that day. So there's going to be, there's going to be a lot of crawfish in the boils. There's going to be a lot of Jack Daniels on the tables. It's going to be a party like it's, like it is on any other weekend. It's just kind of, it's kind of part of the culture. It's ingrained, in South Louisiana. And they're never going to turn down an opportunity. And so LSU is going to win the Jello Shot Challenge, win, lose, or draw. Like there was no question. There's a reason why there's a lot of, LSU fans in Omaha, because they know that when LSU makes the College World Series, it's a big boon for the local economy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Cory, always a fantastic chat, catching up with you. Great work in Omaha, and we appreciate your time today, man.
Yeah, man, appreciate you guys. Y'all take care.
Thanks, Cory.
Cory Diaz, USA Today Network. Really good stuff there from Cory, firsthand experience in Omaha. How about a first-hand experience on our Monday tradition, Diesel, of Marketplace Monday? That's next. edition, a Marketplace Monday, Diesel. I will let you have the floor on the items that you have found off of the wonderful thing that is Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah, you never know what kind of items are out there, and now that we're in the doldrums of summer, man, we got to find something to talk about. So here we go, Cole. A team used, this is in the quote from the posting itself, straight from the locker room, Clemson Tigers weight room rack. It says past college stars and current NFL players used this weight rack. And there's a photo of it on the stream. So it's a Sorinex brand. It's got spotter straps and it's got spotter bars, 4 J-hooks to rack your weights, pull-up pegs, 6 weight plate racks, and a Clemson-branded Clemson Tigers crossbar. So this came straight out of the weight room for Clemson.
Okay.
And this is a really tough thing to try to put a price on. I get it. So I'm going to give you a hint, okay? If you were to buy something extremely similar, I couldn't see a whole lot of differences, an extremely similar rack system, it retails for about $900.
Okay.
So what does this coming straight out of the Clemson weight room do to its value? What are they asking for it?
It's used, so I'm going to say it goes down.
It is used.
I'll tell you this. I may be way off, Diesel, but my initial knee-jerk reaction to hearing that is $500.
That's it?
Mm-hmm. Because it's used.
Yeah, no, they're not going to take $500.
Really?
Yeah, they're not going to take $500.
How rude of them. So you're telling me it's more than a retail?
A lot more.
Oh, my gosh. That's
a
ridiculous.
lot more.
That's ridiculous. All right, I'll say, this is ridiculous. Two grand? Is that too high? $2,000?
You're getting warmer.
Oh, my word. $3,000. $2,500.
What you said first is closer.
3, 4?
$3,200.
Oh, my God.
No way in hell is
That's
this guy
stupid.
getting $3,200 for it. Look, it's a very nice weight rack. It is a professional grade weight rack. It's painted white and orange. It's got the Clemson Tigers crossbar on it. Players used it.
That's
but
awful.
I don't think that kind of pedigree and patents is worth tripling.
You can get a
the
gym
retail
membership
price.
for 2 years less than that. 3 years. That's stupid.
Yeah.
All right, mine. My only one for you today is a good one. It's a framed jersey, Deebo Samuel. It's a big frame, full-size jersey, game-worn Deebo Samuel jersey. At the bottom, it has a Niners logo, and on the right and the left, the bottom Diesel, it has 2 pictures of Deebo Samuel as a San Francisco 49ers. It's signed on the number. It looks really, really good.
Authenticated, I'm sure.
Yep. It says it is.
$300?
No.
500.
Bingo.
$500.
Right on the
All right.
head. $500. Would you pay that?
No.
For one of your
No.
favorite players, though?
No, he probably signed the number and they stitched it on.
Yeah, me either.
Here's a wild one, Cole, I found. This is a piece of the floor from the 2017 NCAA Men's Basketball National Championship game.
Oh.
It's framed. It's North Carolina won the national championship that year, by the way. It's in a frame roughly 8.5 by 11, so roughly notebook paper size. But it's a shadow box. It's got a piece of the floor. It's got a list of all the games and the scores from their path to the national championship in that season. They beat Texas Southern, Arkansas, Oregon, Butler, Kentucky, and Gonzaga. And again, it is a piece of the floor upon which North Carolina won
Oh, that's funny.
their 2017 national
And
championship.
that's the last one they won, right? I believe.
Yep.
How big is the piece, did you say?
It looks like it's roughly 2 by 2, maybe 2 inches by 2 inches.
So it's not much.
It's a small piece.
This is tough.
Is that what they do? Like when there's a national championship
I
game,
didn't
do they
know
just
that. Just chisel it up?
chisel it up, and sell it off?
If they do, I didn't know about that. This is weird. It's small. I don't think it's as much as I initially. I'm going to say, might be way off, $250.
JD says a UNC fan would pay doctor/lawyer money for it, $1,000. Well, you're both high.
Oh, wow.
JD's way high. What'd you say?
I said $250.
You're way high.
Okay, 60.
Still high.
Oh,
This thing is listed for $30. That's a deal, my friend.
somebody give that man $30 just to take that post
That's
down,
a tank
right?
of gas.
Good God.
If anything, I thought that would be an expensive piece of sports memorabilia.
That is
But,
hilarious.
I mean, like think how far that thing had to come. That had to come from Arizona.
30. What is the point of even
Crazy.
listing? It cost him $30 to list the thing.
It cost him $30 to get it framed.
Jeez, that's unreal.
yeah.
That's unreal.
Wild stuff.
Wow.
When we come back, Cole, it's time for you and I to get a little out there. Our Overreaction Monday segment is next. 844-326-3663. Tolos, get on the phone lines and get ready to chirp. That's next. It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Every Monday, Tolos, we give you a chance to call in and grab a hold of these airwaves for about a minute or two. 844-326-3663 is the call-in number, 844-FAN-PHONE. You can also text in on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line, same number, 844-326-3663. But you got something to say about something you saw this weekend, whether it's NASCAR, College World Series, NBA Finals, golf, whatever it may be, this is your chance to let it be heard. So call us up. Tell us what you think. Tolos, you've been pretty weak the last couple of weeks, all right? Pick it up this week. Get on the phones. We got JD on the line already, who says on the stream that he has a doozy of an overreaction.
Uh-oh.
So you better bring it, JD.
He's calling
Or
a shot.
we may ban you till Friday if you don't come with the heat right now. What do you got?
Well, first of all, y'all need to be fired. So shout out Dewey, who can't call. That's my first overreaction to what you just said, Diesel.
Okay.
All right. And so my next one, though, we haven't talked about NASCAR yet.
Okay.
NASCAR did itself no favors this weekend when some people want to claim that it is a scripted sport. Have y'all seen what happened this weekend with one of the former most popular drivers in NASCAR?
You're talking about the Dale Jr. being in the pit box, or up on the is that right?
Yes, sir. That is the one. So Dale Earnhardt Jr. joins Elite Company. He is one of only 8 other folks, so he makes 9, who have won as a former driver, an owner, and now a crew chief, joining the likes of Junior Johnson, Lee Petty, Wendell Scott, Bob Keselowski, Sam Ard, James Hilton, Ronnie Silver, and Cotton Owens, who have also all won races in those 3 roles. But the way that it played out, one of Dale Jr.'s drivers, Justin Allgaier, accidentally got into Chase Elliott, who was the most dominant car all day on Saturday, taking those 2 drivers out of the running, and along comes the 88 car of Connor Zilisch, who Dale Jr. was crew chiefing for, to get the win. NASCAR, and this is my overreaction, NASCAR did itself no favors. When people wanted to claim that it's scripted, they certainly made it look like it was very scripted this weekend.
So do you believe it was scripted, JD?
No, I don't necessarily believe so, but they certainly put the ammunition in the gun for the people who wanted to fire it.
Are there? The reason I'm asking is I haven't seen it. Are there a lot of people out there who do believe it was scripted or is scripted?
Yeah, I've seen a few people say it, and like I said, the one thing that really played into it was Justin Allgaier and Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott, they were the 2 best cars all day, and on a restart, Justin Allgaier kind of squeezed Chase Elliott up a little bit going into turn 1 at Pocono. And like I said, lo and behold, you can't guarantee that Connor Zilisch was going to be the winner at that point. But for Justin Allgaier to eliminate 2 other junior sports cars from winning certainly opened up that window of opportunity.
Okay. All right. Any other overreactions?
My last one is that Diesel said I was high earlier, so I just wanted to clarify to everyone. It was only on the bid, y'all. I was only high on the bid. I'm not really high. Y'all be blessed.
Oh, okay. Thanks, JD.
Okay.
I was wondering what he was talking about.
When did I tell you were high? on the bid.
On the bid for Facebook
Fascinating.
Marketplace
Okay.
Monday. How about
Interesting.
that? You have an overreaction, Diesel?
I do. And it's that Tommy Fleetwood, no matter how many times he tries, is never going to win
Oh, my word.
a PGA Tour event. Never going to happen. Sorry, Tommy. You gave yourself the best possible chance. Now it's in your head, man. 38 top 10 finishes for this guy. He is a phenomenal golfer. I think his career winnings are somewhere north of $25 million. Let me get the answer to that question here. I have it. Give me just a second. I misplaced the number. $25 million worth of total earnings on the PGA Tour, yet the guy cannot win. Had a 3-shot lead going into Sunday's round after a 7 under 63 Saturday. He had a 2-shot lead with 3 holes to play, bogeyed 16, bogeyed 18. He 3-putt from 6 feet away. 3-putt. All he has to do is make par, and he at least ties for the win. He makes his birdie. Like, he was putting for eagle. Ended up with a bogey. It's just not going to happen for you, Tommy. I'm sorry.
No, I 100% agree with you on this one. I even saw a number, Diesel, where he now had 42 top 10 finishes. I saw a statistic yesterday, and again, I don't know. These numbers are, it's a lot of numbers. It's a lot of top 10 finishes. I saw yesterday where yesterday was 42, which, by the way, I saw was the most top 10 finishes on the PGA Tour. Diesel, in the history of the PGA Tour without a PGA Tour win. How do you explain that?
It's crazy.
30-something, 40-something top 10 finishes, and you haven't won. Did you see the video yesterday where he putted the ball and it hit something on the green that diverted it just barely to the right? I mean, his luck is just so bad right now.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it, but that guy,
you feel for him because he's a nice guy. People apparently like him.
Yeah.
He can't win. I don't know what it is.
where is he from again?
He's English.
So maybe he needs to go back. I mean, seriously.
Go back and dominate the British tour.
Yeah,
the
go
DP
back.
tour or whatever they call it over there.
He's from Southport, United Kingdom. So go back to the UK, Diesel, and rip it up. Win over there. I'm telling you, you can't explain that. I mean, when you have that many top 10 finishes, man, you talk about mentally how tough golf is, and what Rory McIlroy did in April at Augusta, how hard that was.
Head?
Oh my gosh, that is so bad. So again, I don't know. Tommy Fleetwood, a heck of a golfer, really likable guy, like you said. Everybody knows his name. He's one of the best on tour. He just can't win.
Look, Rory was chasing his 4th major. Tommy's just chasing his first tour win.
That's a big difference.
That is a big difference. So, look, he's a good golfer. He's a very, very good golfer.
When I don't know what it was, but he snake bit. I would like to ask Rob Brown, though, Diesel, when you watched that video from the green yesterday where he hit that putt and it got almost to the hole and something small in the grass diverted the putt to the right. You can see the ball just break right after it hits and bounces.
Yeah.
Am I not allowed to call that bad luck? Or was he unprepared that ball hit that tiny little piece of rock or whatever it was?
Well, why didn't he see it?
He should have saw it. He didn't have his microscope on him. He left it at all. He could only have his rangefinder. He couldn't have a microscope.
If I'm Tommy, I'm screaming at the head groundskeeper like,
no doubt.
There's a boulder under the green here. How have you not seen it? How have you not removed it?
I don't know the answer to this, so that's why I'm asking. If you're in that position and you do see something as a golfer, are you allowed to touch any of that? Do you know? I don't know the answer to that. I'm just asking because, what if he did see it and couldn't do it? I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe
I'm going to look at the answer.
If there's a golf expert, golf pro out there listening, then I know we have a lot of golf fans that do listen. Let us know on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line, 844-326-3663. JD said he wants to see that video. I'll send it to you. I think I saw it on TikTok, JD. I'm going to try to find it.
So here it is.
You found it?
Leaves on the green, Rule 15.1A.
Okay.
Loose impediments, including leaves, twigs, stones, and other similar natural objects. You are allowed to remove them.
Oh, really?
Anywhere on the course, including the putting green.
Really?
No penalty as long as the ball does not move. So let's just say, for example, that because this happens when you play golf around here all the time, right? There's pin oak leaves on the putting surface. If your ball comes to rest on a leaf, you cannot move the leaf. But if there's leaves in the path of your ball or directly behind the ball where you would hit the leaf before you touch the ball, then you can move those.
That's crazy. So he can actually move it. Now, here's the video. I'm going to send it to JD. I'm going to send it to you so you can see it. It is it's something right at the last minute, and it's so small, Diesel. I just don't know if he saw it. I would assume he didn't, right? But he bogeyed that hole. And I'm telling you what, man, like you talk about bad luck, that's some bad luck.
What you cannot do is press something down in your ball path. So let's just pretend for a moment that was a pebble under the putting surface.
Yeah, you couldn't push it.
He can't step on it. He can't step on it to flatten it down.
I hate that rule. I hate that rule, right?
And you cannot move fixed obstructions like sprinkler heads, but you can take relief from sprinkler heads.
Because if I was a golfer, and I don't play golf, but if I did these, I would want, let's say it's a 6-foot putt, I would want to walk all the way to the, create that line.
That's why, like, golfers lose their mind if somebody walks through the line of your putt because,
You're messing up the.
Yeah, if you got a 300-pound fatty walking through your line, he's going to be, depressing the putting surface.
Yeah. These are one of my overreactions on this Overreaction Monday is I am ready, and I don't know how we have to get to this point, but I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to put in an official order from the fan upstate. We can sign it over and have it done. I want officials at the college and pro level to have to answer to the media just like coaches and players do.
100%.
Period.
100%.
Why can that not happen? How do we get to that point? And a big game, Diesel, NBA Finals Game 7, or you remember the Saints Rams game in the playoffs a couple of years ago where there was a no pass interference call and everybody lost their mind. Why don't officials have to answer? Why don't officials have to have accountability at the D1 level in college sports and at the pro level? If the reporters don't have any questions, they can say, hey, we're good. Maybe we don't want if it's a good, if it's a well-called game, maybe the officials don't do a press conference, but they should have to report. I would like to know.
Yeah. Even if you have to wait 24 hours or 48 hours after the game, that way you don't get angry, upset reporters.
Yeah.
Maybe even if it's a teleconference, maybe do a teleconference after each game.
I mean, something. I want yesterday, Diesel, those officials to have to answer for what happened with Kevin Schnall. I would like to hear their explanation. That's all. The players have to do it, and they have to do it right off. Right after the game's over. The coaches have to do it. Why can't the officials have interviews as well? I also overreact and tell you, Diesel, that I thought Game 7 of the NBA Finals was unwatchable. Rob Brown disagreed with me this morning and said that he enjoyed the game. I don't know, man, but you know me, Diesel. I've always been a fan of the NBA, and maybe it's the fact that my stars that I grew up watching aren't in the finals. But I thought last night's Game 7, if you had just tuned into the show, was just unwatchable. I don't know, Diesel, how much time you got to watch and how much Artolo's got to watch, but it was just not riveting for me.
Yeah, I watched the tail end of the second quarter and then most of the second half.
Yeah.
And it didn't grip me.
Just didn't have the flair, right?
Yeah, it didn't have the flair. It didn't have this back and forth, nobody could miss a shot kind of feel to it. It didn't feel like one of those knockdown, drag-out wars. It was a technically great defensive game from both of these teams, but you could also say it lacked a lot of the offensive fireworks that we like to see. So it's hard to say, man. It's hard to say what people want. We've been saying for a long time we're sad about or not sad, but we don't like the fact that games get up to the 140 to 150 point range. And that means nobody's playing any defense.
Yeah.
But if it's down at like 95, 100 points, you say, well, nobody's scoring. So what do we really want?
I know, it's weird. It really is. The ratings just were so bad. I'm waiting to see Diesel. We won't have the information in yet, but it'll probably be tomorrow or Wednesday. I'm just curious to know if it broke 10 million. That's my biggest. I don't know. We'll see. Let's go back to the phone lines, 844-326-3663. Tom wants to weigh in on this Overreaction Monday. Tom, what is your overreaction on this Monday?
My overreaction is this, and I do not think Coastal would have won either way yesterday, but that home plate umpire should never be allowed to officiate a game at any level again in his life. I don't care if it's T-ball. He should never be allowed to be an umpire for the rest of his life. That was hands down the biggest joke of a performance I have ever seen by an official. And if I was Coastal Carolina, I would be filing lawsuit after lawsuit because that was an absolute joke that we all had to watch on TV yesterday.
Tom, do you think that referees, umpires, officials, regardless of sport, do you think they should call games in the postseason differently than they do in the regular season? Like that old adage, well, in that situation, you have to eat the whistle. Do you believe that that's true or false?
In some ways, yes. Now, I'm not saying you change how you call balls and strikes. That shouldn't change. But how you handle a situation should. It was clear the Coastal Carolina coach did not hear what the umpire said. So when he asked him a simple question, yes, he was kind of smart. I mean, I probably would have been too in that situation. But at the same time, you've got to use some sort of logical reason. And it was pretty clear the umpire got frustrated because the other umpire didn't know how to walk, and that's what led to the ejection. It was the stupidest thing I'd ever seen. I've watched women's softball at a T-ball level have better officiating than what I had to watch yesterday.
Tell us how you really feel, please, Tom.
And I'll say this. I'm not going to name drop, but y'all know me. I'm a big old Gamecock. And, I understand the SEC this and the SEC that. We've got to come to a realization that we don't have to religiously pull for the conference in every single sport. It is okay to watch teams in the SEC lose. I'm getting sick and tired of these people going out there beating their chest for a school that you do not pull for. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to go pull for Georgia to win a national championship just because they're playing. I hate them. I'm not going to pull for them. You can say the same thing about, LSU, Florida. I'm not pulling for some of our biggest rivalries in the history of us being in the SEC. You can forget about it. I hope they lose every single year. If the only SEC team I won't win a national championship is the Gamecocks.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you,
we
Tom.
appreciate you, Tom in Somerville.
Great phone call.
I wish he would just be a little more opinionated. That's all,
So I love Tom, man. He's welcome to call in
tell us
anytime.
how you really feel next time, Tom.
A lot of people have been saying that Angel Campos is a trigger happy umpire who throws people out of games constantly. Well, as a matter of fact, I have the numbers for that, Cole. Only 8 times in his career as a Major League Baseball umpire had he ever ejected a player or coach. So 8 ejections over the course of a long career calling Major League Baseball. He's only ejected 2 from college games, and those were Kevin Schnall and Matt Schilling. So 10 times total. Now, I don't know. I couldn't even fathom another. Help me out, Tolos. Do you have another Major League Baseball umpire that you know of by name who had a quick trigger of throwing guys out of games? And I want to compare side by side. Is this guy just throwing people out willy-nilly, or is it actually far less than what people think it is? Because people will have this idea, like so-and-so does this all the time. Well, it actually doesn't happen that much. 8 in the majors, 2 in college, obviously none before this game.
One more overreaction, Diesel. Kev wants to weigh in at 844-326-3663. What's up, Kev?
I don't even know what to say no more. Tom got me wanting to be a Gamecock fan. I'm scared. Tom, get him, Tom. Tom, you better get him.
Is he right or wrong, though, Kev?
Hey, man, I'm rolling with Tom, man. I'm rolling. I need y'all to roll with me on this one, man. I'm gonna have to argue with my boy sometime this week. Hey, man, that was bad basketball last night, man.
Thank you.
That was like, don't get me wrong. These superstars these days, ain't nobody flying over the rim except for Jai and old buddy out there in Minnesota.
Anthony Edwards.
He I like his game. It's kind of boring to a certain. He'll put you to sleep, then he'll score. It's like he dribble, spin off, hit a little shot.
Push off, you mean. Push off.
Right. Yeah, they shot bricks last, like, little number 22. He kept shooting threes. And the thing about it, bro, go to the rim if nothing is going in. Go to the rim. Everybody in the NBA should be able to get up in there and put a one-handed dunk down. Somebody just get to the rim and go to the line and find your.
So is that why it's boring? Is nobody's dunking in these finals? Is that why?
Yeah, there ain't nobody. This was the one boring set of finals, right?
Thank you. I agree with you.
It was a boring set of finals. I've never been ready for basketball just to be over. Like,
so what? Like Diesel and I were talking about it earlier, Kev. What's the answer? People say, all these old heads said, well, there's no defense played. That's why I'm not ever going to watch the NBA. And then there's defense played, and the ratings are the worst ever. So they're not going to watch just because they're not going to watch. What in your mind? What's the actual reason?
If you're coming from an era of that defense and old school, like it's like football now. A lot of teams don't have the greatest defense no more. Like you get those 1 or 2 stops per half that you need to get. And that either puts you up by a little bit and you roll with it. But basketball, you can get back in at any given time. So I like high scoring. I don't want to see this 87 to 67. 87 to 88 game. I don't mind it. But at the same time, put some point. Let me see the skill that you guys got now, since it's more about skill and everybody can shoot a jumper and everybody can hit it from 60 or whatever it may be. But to me right now, it's bad basketball. It's soft and it's just bad basketball.
Kev, as a lot of people have been saying, it felt like a regular season game, not an NBA Finals Game 7.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It was a change of the guard with all these new cats out there doing their thing, and we're not used to seeing your LeBrons or just whoever in the finals. And this is a new breed of game now. But at the same time, it was bad basketball.
Appreciate the phone call, Kev.
All right, folks.
Good to hear from you. Texter said, what about Angel Hernandez? How many players and coaches did Angel Hernandez eject? From 1992 through 2024, Angel Hernandez ejected 98 players and coaches. 98. Compare that to Angel Campos, who threw out Kevin Schnall, 10.
Yeah.
98 to 10. And by the way, 98, not even close to the record. It's going to make you laugh. From 1905 to 1941, Bill Clem threw out 358 players and coaches.
Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot of coaches and players. A lot of ejections,
in 40 years.
Wow.
358 ejections.
Tolos, there is a lot of sports, a lot of soundtracks to get to from over the weekend. We know you can't consume it all at once, so that's what we have for you. Not an audio blitz, because, certain other shows call it audio blitz, and we don't want to call it the same. Instead, we have a sports soundtrack for you next. Well, it's time to hit you with some of the best audio, some of the most recent audio in sports. How about a nice sports soundtrack on this Monday? We just had Overreaction Monday. Going to get into our daily wires here in a few minutes. Also going to get back into the College World Series. Do you agree with what happened with Kevin Schnall? We'll talk about that at 6 o'clock, Diesel, but so much audio to get to. And let's start with a little golf on this sports soundtrack on this Monday. Keegan Bradley. How about Captain Keegan getting it done? Here's what he had to say after yesterday's performance.
If you'd have been told a year ago when you accepted the job that at this point you'd be number 7 in the world, would that have surprised you?
Well, not. I don't know. It's the lowest I've ever been in the world. When they called me and told me that I was being the Ryder Cup captain, the first thing they said was, "We want you to be the first playing captain since Arnold Palmer in 1962." And my head was spinning. I didn't know what they were talking about, but they knew that was a possibility and that we would have things in place for that. But I'm always trying to be the best that I can be, and I feel like I'm playing the best golf of my career right now. And, a year ago, I don't know if I would have thought I'd be 7th in the world, but I certainly thought I'd be, contending in tournaments. Well, when the PGA of America called me, and Zach Johnson was on the call, and Seth Waugh was the person who called me, and he mentioned that he wanted me to be, because when I get the call, I'm thinking, I really want to be on the team. And he first thing he said was, "We want you to be the first playing captain since Arnold Palmer," which is a heavy burden. But
Diesel, what about Keegan Bradley, a name that people have known around golf for a while, but man, he is even at an older age. I'm going to put that in air quotes. He's 7th in the world. I mean, what do you say about that?
He's 7th in the world. Last week he was 21st. He's made one heck of a jump. Granted, at the end of 2024, he was 12th. So he was in 12th. He fell back to 21st. He's made a quick jump up to 7th place. I just wonder, Cole, everybody is all over Scotty's jock, right, as the number 1 player. I just haven't been that impressed with Scotty's play this year.
What?
I haven't been impressed with his play. Where
have you been watching?
Where did he finish at the Travelers?
I don't know. I can't. I don't have the leaderboard.
I'll find it. I'll get it here in just a moment. But he's still number 1. I'm not saying
he's won like 6 times this year, though.
Has he?
I'm pretty sure he's won a lot.
How many wins?
I don't know. What's this Diesel hate towards Scotty?
So Scotty's played in 13 events this year. 3. He's got 3.
That's pretty good.
I didn't realize that he. What did he win? The PGA?
PGA
this year.
And
2025.
And then 2 other. Obviously non-majors.
I didn't remember that he won the PGA. I know it was a couple weeks ago, but come on. 3 wins this year, played in 13 events, 10 top 10 finishes. He's a great player, but I don't know. He hasn't been as dominant as I would expect the world number 1 player to be. Maybe the difference is, in my mind, I'm thinking Scotty Scheffler should be Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
And he should be absolutely not just beating, but dominating the field, and that really hasn't been the case.
No, and that'll never happen again. You remember how you and I made those videos last week, and we're talking about that 64-foot putt, right, from J.J. Spawn Diesel? Oh, Keegan Bradley says, Cole, it's not really that big of a deal. I'll just go sink a 64-foot putt the next weekend. Here's how that sounded.
He's got it going today, though, but let's see what Keegan can do.
Final 8 feet up on top of the hill.
What in the name of J.J. Spawn is happening here?
64 feet, Diesel just made it like it was nothing. I thought this was supposed to be difficult, huh? Not for him.
Scotty, by the way, finished tied for 6th at 12 under.
Not bad.
Tied for 6th.
That was incredible. I did not expect that to be.
These pro golfers out here hitting 65-footers. It makes all of us who can't hit a 6-footer feel bad about ourselves.
It does.
Speaking of can't hit a 6-footer, let's talk about Tommy Fleetwood. Can't hit a 6-footer. He 3-putted from 6 feet out.
It's pretty brutal. pretty brutal.
All he has to do is two-putt it, and he's forcing a playoff.
Yeah, it's true. How about this drama yesterday? If you watched the College World Series, you heard it, and this is what it sounded like.
Curveball, the slider, roughly 50% of the time.
Oh, my goodness, he just threw Kevin Schnall out of the game. Wow. In the bottom of the first inning, the home plate umpire throws Kevin Schnall out of this game, and down goes an umpire who had come in to get in the middle of things.
So Diesel, the umpire, goes down. Kevin Schnall dismissed. Obviously, the first base coach gone as well. We've talked about it a lot. We're going to talk about it again at 6. But boy, that was something we didn't have on our bingo card yesterday. You know?
No, we didn't. And I don't know if Kevin Schnall getting ejected cost Coastal the game. LSU was just really good. I mean, they had that phenomenal. Was it 4th inning, 5th inning? Had a phenomenal inning there, and Coastal just couldn't respond, especially with runners in scoring position. But, I mean, come on. You can't let that happen, Kevin Schnall. Man. You cannot let that happen. I would have liked to have seen the umpire pull him aside after the inning, give his explanation, and kind of do it out of the limelight.
Yeah.
And keep the coach in the game. He deserves to stay in the game. He got his team to this point. He deserves to stay in the game. Way too quick on the ejection. Ridiculously stupid 2-game ejection. I don't even know why they threw the first base coach out. I mean, he was arguing as well.
And that's one thing we really hadn't heard, though, you know? We hadn't heard exactly what was said or anything. So that's an interesting point. Diesel, you brought up Tommy Fleetwood and that difficult loss at the Travelers. Here's him yesterday.
For a while, you know, I think, you know, when it sort of calms down, you know, I'm upset now. I'm gutted. I'm angry.
10 seconds of audio there. What did he say?
I'm upset. I'm angry. And who is this guy talking over him?
It took him a long time to get that out, didn't it?
Well, I've been in this situation for a while. You know, I think, you know, when it sort of calms down, you know, I'm upset now. I'm gutted. I'm angry.
What do we say?
Calms down. Look at the things that I did well. Look at the things that I can learn from. I said yesterday, I haven't been in this position all year, so it's been a while. Felt like I did a lot of good things, but there was things that I, you know, definitely can do better, and I have to do better. So, you know, I did plenty of things well enough this week to win, and I didn't do that. It hurts.
Diesel, he's got to be better. He's got to be a lot better.
British accents are tough, man. I just watched 28 Years Later over the weekend, and I understood about half of what was being said because they're really tough British accents.
One more for you. Coach Johnson, after the big win, was in no hurry. He said, look, we just won. I have all night for you.
We have time for one more question for Coach.
You do a couple more. It's okay. Yeah.
I
just won
agree.
the national championship. Aaron Fitt's like one of my best friends. He was nice to me before anybody even knew who I was in college baseball.
Good call.
Thanks for taking extra questions, Coach.
We stay here all night. We just won the national championship.
Don't you love that? A coach is like, look, the media, we just won. I'm happy. We'll stay here as long as you. I love that, man. Yep. I really do. Johnson.
Fantastic stuff.
Jay Johnson, I mean, 2 and 3 years. Do we realize how dominant that is?
It's ridiculous. He can get any recruit he wants, and as our guest Cory Diaz told us earlier, which, by the way, if you missed it at 4:20, we're going to replay it for you at 6:20. As he said, Jay Johnson calls every single high school recruit in America is paying attention. And he said, doesn't matter if you're a freshman or if you're a senior. If you're the best player, you're going to play. Pure and simple. I do wonder if that, how much that may eventually lead to a lot of transfers out of that program. But, I mean, that means if you can land a transfer out of LSU, you've just landed a whale of a baseball player.
That's for sure.
When we come back, Cole, we'll take our whip around the sports world, not in audio form, but in, well, it's still audio form because this is an audio medium. But the other headlines, the Daily Wire, is coming your way next. So much happening out there in the sports world, Cole. We can't spend 15 minutes on all of it. So in this segment every single day, we smash it all into one, and we call them our Daily Wires. Here's the buzz happening around the sports world. The Atlanta Braves, just when it felt like they were getting some momentum, and they lose 2 of 3.
Thanks.
To the Marlins, the last place team in the NL East.
Can't make this stuff up, man.
What the heck is this team? Like,
so bad.
Who are they? 35-41 on the season, 10.5 games back in the division. This was an opportunity to start chipping away at that 10-game deficit on the Mets, which they did a great job in beating them in, 3 straight games, 4 straight games?
3 straight last week.
Yeah, they swept them last week, and then you lose 2 of 3 to the crappy Marlins.
You can't make this stuff up, Diesel.
The Braves, by the way, back in action tonight in New York. Spencer Schwellenbach on the mound for Atlanta. I mean, they're going to have to find a way to sweep the Mets again on their home field.
Who knows what's going to happen?
This could be the team that plays great against great teams, but sucks against the bad ones.
I don't know.
You heard some audio on our way out of the last segment in NASCAR's final race on Amazon Prime. Chase Briscoe got his first win of the season for JGR Racing. That, of course, that race was at Dover.
I'll say this real quick about Prime. I thought it was awesome, the Prime broadcast. I think they were better than NBC, Fox. I know the ratings probably weren't as good because it's streaming, but, man, I thought Prime killed it. No filters. You can hear everything. I mean, no FCC. I loved it. I really did.
The Phoenix Suns have agreed on a huge blockbuster trade, sending 15-time All-Star Kevin Durant to the Houston Rockets for Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, and the number 10 pick in this year's draft, and 5 second-round picks. That is a haul.
It is.
For an old-ass basketball player.
It is. And you know what? It better work out, right? It better work for all that. I mean, that's a lot, to your point.
Yeah. The difference is, Cole, this trade is going to be completed on July 6th when the new year begins.
Yeah.
So we'll have this thing formalized here in about 2 weeks. Travis Hunter has officially signed his 4-year contract with the Jacksonville Jaguars. The deal, worth $46.65 million, all fully guaranteed, includes a $30.5 million signing bonus paid up front. So my dude went from nothing to $30 million in the bank like that.
That's pretty significant, right?
Yeah.
I mean, goodness gracious.
I'd say so.
Congratulations to Travis Hunter. Just use it wisely.
Keegan Bradley ruined what looked like it was going to be Tommy Fleetwood's first career win at the TPC River Highlands. That would be the Travelers. Instead, Fleetwood picked up, instead of picking up the trophy, Keegan Bradley came out on top. He is the United States captain for the upcoming Ryder Cup. He birdied the final hole to grab a one-shot win at the Travelers, where Tommy Fleetwood bogeyed both 16 and 18. Tommy had a terrible, terrible 4th round, and that's what happens, man. You got to keep it together all the way through. The Oklahoma City Thunder are now NBA champions. OKC defeated Indiana in Game 7 of the NBA Finals on Sunday, 103-91. A lot of people kind of napped through that game. It was not the most exciting Game 7 in NBA Finals history, especially with Tyrese Halliburton going down. It is a brutal way to end an otherwise stellar first trip to the NBA Finals for Tyrese Halliburton.
Unfortunate, man. I don't care what player it is, good, bad, or in between, Diesel, to have a player go down like that in a Game 7. It's just, you feel for him. It's so unfortunate. I don't know what the remedy is, what the answer is, but it's just, again, I think that's the only word you can use, is unfortunate.
Yeah, and of course, with Houston acquiring Kevin Durant and Tyrese Halliburton going down with, a torn Achilles, that's certainly going to affect the early betting odds to win next year's NBA title. But the clear-cut favorite remains the Oklahoma City Thunder.
And isn't that crazy? The Thunder, I mean, I get it, but, man, I thought I thought Houston with that. I thought Houston might be a little more favored. We'll see, though.
The LSU Tigers, College World Series champions, they beat Coastal Carolina 1-0 and 5-3 on Saturday and Sunday to clinch their 8th College World Series title and their second in 3 years. Four-star quarterback Jaden O'Neal, ranked number 112 in the 2026 ESPN 300, announced his commitment to Florida State Sunday night, sealing a long-anticipated flip for the former Oklahoma pledge. Shout out to the boys down there.
They
for getting
need that, don't they? Kind of feel like they need it.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll take anybody they can get at this point, I believe.
Five-star defensive end Richard Wesley has committed to Texas. He's the number 18 overall prospect in the 2026 ESPN 300. So he is going to be a Longhorn.
Texas loading up.
And finally here, Cole, because we know our audience cares so much about hockey. This one's a wild one, though. The Charlotte Checkers won Game 5 of the Calder Cup Finals, are down 3-2. Game 6 is tonight at Bojangles Coliseum in Charlotte. Charlotte is the minor league affiliate of the Florida Panthers. So you got some really good up-and-coming players on that team. Here's why this is wild, Cole. Only 3 times in NHL history has an NHL team and its minor league affiliate won their respective championships in the same season.
Wow.
In 1975-76 and then 1976-77, the Montreal Canadiens and their AHL affiliate, the Nova Scotia Voyagers, each won the Stanley Cup Finals and the Calder Cup. And it also happened in 1994-95 when the New Jersey Devils and the Albany River Rats each won their respective championships.
There's your history lesson on this Monday.
Deep
You learned
dive,
something.
my friend.
You learned something today.
Deep dive.
Diesel, let's get back into the conversation. Kevin Schnall, what happened yesterday? A lot of opinions. We want to hear yours next.